Nothing we say is investment advice. Please pause on all 3 pages of this disclaimer and read it. Greetings, Algo artisans. Today is January the 20th, and we are going to take a look at the usual suspects today. We got the NASDAQ, USDJPY, EURUSD, BTCUSD, GBPJPY, gold, and silver. Before we jump into it, a couple of things. First, take a look at the description. There's a link in there to a free algo. I show you how I build it, how I turn it into code, and once optimized, how professionals plug it into their broker so the computer can trade while they're not sitting there while you're out golfing or sleeping, whatever it is you do or don't do while you're not at the computer, that can be done. Secondly, before we look at the charts, we're going to take a look at the news over at forexfactory.com as far as the economic data that's coming out. And this is a big week for that, and it's going to make this week a bit unpredictable. So let's jump over there. So I started today because yesterday was a holiday and markets were closed. The futures for the NASDAQ and the other indices did open pretty low, and here's why. We have the WEF annual meetings all week long. This is where the billionaires go, where the heads of state go. There's a lot going on there, and there's a lot of drama happening around Greenland and Venezuela, Europe yelling at the US, Canada yelling at the US just saying, hey, it's going to be what it is, and China saying this, and Russia saying that. And long story short, markets are not liking it. They're being unpredictable and a bit bearish in the indices. So we really don't know what's going to happen all week, and all the predictions this week are going to be just based on what the algos say. Now we'll take a look at the main events that actually happened besides the WEF. Starting Wednesday morning at the European Open, we have the British CPI year over year, and then 8:30 a.m. EST, President Trump speaks at the WEF. So that could spark a lot of market movement. As to how that will go, it's always impossible to know. We have more employment data coming at 7:30 p.m. on Wednesday. That's EST. Thursday morning, 8:30 a.m. as usual, we have data for the US. We have the GDP, the final GDP quarter over quarter. That could be powerful. 10 a.m. EST is the core PCE price index, which they say is what the Fed really looks at when they talk about their rates, which I believe we're going to see the FOMC next week, if I'm not mistaken. 4:45 p.m. EST on Thursday, we have New Zealand CPI quarter over quarter. And all through Thursday and Friday is the tentative JPY Bank of Japan rate decision. Then this is the second landmine of the week. The Bank of Japan rate decision could make a huge difference in markets, as this could be a sign of the carry trade unwinding. And without getting too far into theory, this could cause markets to really take a hit. And the tricky part about this is they don't tell you exactly when they're going to talk about it. It might be like late Thursday night in US time. It might be early Friday morning US time. They don't really tell you. So it's virtually impossible to try to ride the volatility of this right away. Just going to have to be very careful on those days. And I'm going to be making sure my positions are protected. Friday European Open, retail sales for the British pound. 3:30 a.m. the European flash PMI. All the PMIs coming out actually, you got the French, German. We have the flash manufacturing PMI for the British at 4:30 a.m. and then we have the US PMIs at 7:45 a.m. and the WEF is still going on all of that time. So let's go ahead and jump into the charts, and we'll start with the NASDAQ. Okay, so the Sunday open was pretty brutal, massive gap. It was a lot of posturing and possibly horse trading going on overseas in Davos for the WEF. And so all of the yelling and the bickering is causing markets to be uncertain and head down. Now we do have a lower bound here. We have a support on the NASDAQ at 24,893. And then we have 2650 at the top here. Price can go anywhere in between. A couple of local supports already broken in the day there. So I would expect price, as long as things go as they are currently, to head down towards that lower bound at 24,890 and possibly break below. The next level below that is a ways down at 23,889, and on weeks like this, anything can happen. Let's take a look at USDJPY. This one is directly affected, as most markets are, but especially this one is going to be directly affected by the Bank of Japan rate. That's why I have these possible divergent dotted lines towards the end of the week. Now, the price does want to range for now between the dollar and the yen, the local upper bound being at 158,659. The higher upper bound at 159.45, the lower bound here at 157.32. Price wants to range there, but could pop up or down really at any time. Again, this is just basic look at what might happen if the algos are not disturbed. So this week's predictions are really to be taken with a grain of salt. Let's take a look at the euro. EURUSD, same kind of thing. We have a local lower bound at 116.98, local upper bound at 117.70. Price may range or not. And as the week moves forward, we might see anything happen. Anything can happen. We do have a strong upper resistance at 118.09 and a stronger lower resistance at 115.76. So if price does break, those are other areas that might catch, and we might be able to find a good trade on those as well. Let's take a look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin just bearish. The move down in the stock market pulled it down. I expect Bitcoin to head down towards 84 this week, if not lower. The next level down after 84 really is 78, although 80 is a psychological number with some physical support right there. So price could actually head down to 80 and maybe bounce up, but I think if we see something drastic, it will continue down towards the 78 and even possibly 74. Now, 74 is a very high time frame support going back several months. I can zoom out just so you can see it here and why I look at that number. Here's the daily chart. You notice that at 74 on the way up, price made two important marks right there. First, it stopped on that massive run that it had in early 2024, and it stopped right at 74,000. And then as it came up, it actually came back down to grab liquidity right there. So this 74,000 is a major liquidity zone. If price goes there, there is a decent chance that it may stop there, at least for the meantime. As I talk about quite often, Bitcoin is now in what I think is the beginning of its move down into the bear market. I could be wrong. We could see a move back up to the all-time highs, but we saw some potentially strong bullishness get rejected last week at about 98,000. So right below 100,000, Bitcoin just could not break it and has been falling very strongly ever since, especially today. Big moves down. So in the absence of a strong stock market, this could just continue down. And I think it might be ready to do that anyway, given where we are in the 4-year cycle. The longer the 4-year cycle goes, the more risky going long is. So just understand that. I've been calling this out for a long time. I've been calling this to a T, especially in Algo Factory and especially on these shows. I've been right about it, as I'm right about many things in this realm. So keep paying attention and watching. Of course, Bitcoin, like anything else, could be severely affected by what happens in Davos and BOJ. Let's move on to GBPJPY, British Pound, Japanese Yen. So here we are looking at what I think is just a range with a possible pop up or down towards the end of the week, depending on the BOJ or any other event. Not a lot going on there. Upper bound 213.51, lower bound 210.69. Let's look at gold. Gold is just a projection upwards. I was correct about it last week, and I'll probably be correct about it this week. This is a fib target, this level here at 47.76. I called that out before. About 2 weeks ago, last week, I called this fib target here, which is 46.50, which was the Sunday open above that. And then I call this 47.76, which we pretty much hit today. And I think our next moves up will just be towards 5,000. I think it's going to be a tough nut to crack at 5,000 unless the world events really go out of control. Let's take a look at silver. Again, another projection up. I was correct about it last week, and I'll probably be correct about it this week. My targets are 98,000 if I were to take some profit off, and 105-ish thousand, maybe 107,000. I have some other projections that like 107. Either way, I think it's going to be sideways and up for both of the precious metals that we like to trade. So thank you all for watching. Remember, at Algo Factory, what we do is we teach people how to predict where price is going and when it will get there. And when we can do this to a statistical degree of success, right? If we can do this correctly a certain amount of the time that is predictable, that is more often than not right, we can extract money from the markets in a systematic fashion. This is how real traders make their money. We do have an algorithm that I built so you can see me build it. You would have to optimize it before you used it, but in the description is a link to that video. I give you everything, how it's done, how to turn it into code, and I show you the tools that traders use to connect it to their broker so they can actually have a trade when they're not at the computer. So please take a look at that. We will be live this week, Wednesday and Thursday. We were live this morning as well, and we'll be live Wednesday and Thursday morning, 8:30 a.m. sharp. And then we will be back next week on Monday with a similar report that you see today. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. We hope to see you at Algo Factory, where you can learn how to trade like a hedge fund pro. Thanks for watching.